All right, welcome to PresentERs. This month we have the wonderful Adam Ezard, who will be talking to us about his ER at junior high school in Tokyo. And he's been teaching and designing courses, materials for over 25 years in high schools and junior high schools, though mostly junior high schools. And he's convinced that ER, like the rest of us, is something that most junior high schools should be doing. Wholeheartedly agree. And he's hoping that his presentation might help others see ways that they could use extensive reading in their schools, kind of like a blueprint for ER in the classroom. So this is where I say welcome, Adam, and over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me just share my screen. Am I on? Is that okay?
Yes, that's
Cool.
fine.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, thanks for joining me, everybody. My name is Adam Ezard. I work at Waseda University Junior and Senior High School. I just give a quick outline of what I want to do today. I'll go through a quick bio, the purpose of my presentation, and just introduce the education system at our school, the ER timeline. We've been doing this for about 4 years now. Some of the output tasks that we use as part of the blended learning approach with the ER program, how we're reinforcing this, measuring some impact, and just some future goals. And then if I could get some ideas and questions from you guys, that would be fantastic. So just quickly about me. So as Sandra said, I've been here about 25 years, similar path to a lot of people on here probably. Junior, senior high school since about 2000. I've been at Waseda University Junior High School for 12 years now. And I've seen a few changes in that time. And the ER program, as I said, started about 4 years ago. So the main purpose, there's two purposes to the presentation, really. As Sandra said, I really believe that ER can be starting in junior high school. I know it's very popular in universities. It's trickling into high school here. I haven't heard that many junior high schools that are doing it. And it would be wonderful if people could use some of the ideas that I have here to expand this a little bit more. The other thing is I'm kind of all alone here. It's really just a one-man show. I have a little bit of support from a couple of the Japanese teachers at the school, but it's been a little bit of a struggle. Paul X Reading has been fantastic to help me out with this, but if anybody has feedback and suggestions, I'd be really, really happy to hear them at the end. So I'll just go in first of all to talk about the school, to give a little bit of a background. So our school, it's an all-boys school, 360 kids in the junior high, 1,500 in the senior high. It's part of Waseda University, so all the students do go to Waseda University. There's no entrance exam for the students. They just need to keep up their GPA. So it is a little bit unique. It's not like even other escalator schools in a way. And all of the teachers also work directly for Waseda University. So one way in which the junior high school is quite unique is there's a lot of focus on English. So we have students have 6 or 7 hours of English per week. So in the English program, there'd be AGO A, which forms the core of the course. 3 hours with a class size of 30 with a Japanese teacher. Then they have AGO B, which is 14 to 16 kids in the first year, and then 30 after that. That's for a couple of hours a week. So mainly they're looking at Japanese textbooks. There's a lot of supplemental activity as well. AGO B has recently branched off into a 4 skills course. They have a class of Sentaku, which is really just presentations in English. And then my class, which is a Sogo B class. And that class is split into 50-50. So you either have 14 or 16 students, just so that there's an even number for pair work. And that's taught by native English speaking teachers of one 50-minute class per week. So that's the class that we're looking at. That's the class that has the ER as part of the component. As it's Sogo, there's no grade. They just have an evaluation comment at the end of the year. There's no set syllabus, no set requirements. So I'm quite free to do what I want to within this course. And at first we started with the 4 skills course linked to the AGO grammar syllabus, a little bit of a focus on writing, speaking, presentation. AGO B switched, like I said, to the 4 skills base, and that kind of gave me an idea to move into something a little bit different. So we're looking a little bit more of a holistic course that supports the other courses as well. And I also introduced ER around about that time as well. So if I just go quickly to the ER timeline, am I speaking too quickly? Do I need to wait for questions or
No,
what?
don't worry.
Is it okay?
If anyone has any questions, we
Oh,
normally put them in the chat and then we can ask them
yeah.
after.
Awesome.
No
Awesome.
panic. Don't worry.
Okay. So before we started the course, they were doing students were doing pleasure reading with the Japanese teachers. We have a small library of readers, and they would pick a book or a couple of books to do over the summer vacation. That was really the extent of the reading that they were doing outside of the textbook. Around about 2020, just after things calmed down after Corona, we looked into the possibility of expanding the school library for English books. It didn't really seem possible at the time to get enough budget to expand the library. I did a trial with MReader, which was quite positive. From September, I did a limited trial with X Reading. Students were just using it on their smartphones. I think it was a group of about 15 or 20 students that helped me out with this. And then from 2021, the new school policy was for the students to have Microsoft Surface laptops. And that gave me a really big opportunity to roll this out across the junior high school. So that's when it began in earnest, really. And the class began to focus more on ER related activities. And then in 2022, Japanese teachers began to help me out a little bit by giving me some of their grade. So 10% of the AGO B was based on the activities that the students did in the ER activities in the class. And we started giving out awards at the end of the year. So it really kind of became integrated into the whole school curriculum. There was really no escape from ER at this time. Um, that's the way the timeline worked. Now, how I run it, so I'm using X reading, which I'm assuming everybody's familiar with. I set it until recently with them getting 60% on the quiz, and I've just recently dropped out to 40% when I realized that they don't actually know the score that they get. So as long as I pass, they're happy, and that's kind of helped with a little bit of motivation. Words per minute, I set it at 300. Level access, they can read their current level and one book above. I don't allow them to look at similar books, as I found a pattern of students reading a book with 5,000 words and then the same story with 15,000 words and then the same story again with 40,000 words and passing the tests that way. And they can retake the tests. I reset the tests every evening. So if they failed the test and I reset it, they get to take the test again the next day. And the word targets for this year, just to give you a little bit of an idea, we're starting with Junior 1. They start with 5,000 words they have to read over the summer, and that slowly builds up 10,000, 20,000 words until we get into the 9th grade, where I'm expecting them to read about 50,000 words per term. And there's been a lot of trial and error with this, getting the right level of words where it's doable, and it's not too much and it's not too demotivational. So if I show you what happened last year, what I found was in the first grade and the second grade, I set a target, and they were generally, the first graders were coming above the target, the second graders were coming near to the target, and the third graders, who I wasn't actually teaching directly, were not making the target at all. And we needed to do a little bit of a change there. We've focused a little bit more on motivating the third graders to work on that. So what you can see here is um, we're already in the second term, so I've got the data from the first term. So I'm making the targets this year. Even the third graders, with a little bit of pressure from the Japanese teachers, have managed to get the average over my word target. So my plan for 2024, 2025, that would work out as if they'd started from Junior 1 and gone all the way through the 3 years. They'd be coming up to close to 300,000 words as a minimum target. And sorry, what's happening here? For some reason, my PowerPoint is not moving forwards. I'm just going to come out of this.
Yep. Yep. Turn it off, turn it back on.
Yeah. Where are we? Okay, here we go. So the rationale behind the word limits that I'm setting, if the kids only read what's in the Kente Kyokasho, you're only getting about 5,000 words over 3 years. Our students do read a lot more than that. Oh, it's happened again. I wonder why this is happening.
Could be
Oh,
Zoom. Zoom does tend to take up a lot of computing power. So if
right.
you run other things at the same time, it can happen.
Could you just show the slides without doing the slideshow?
Will that work? Let me see if it happens again, I'll try that. We do the new treasure textbook and the Here We Go textbook, so the students have a lot more input than the 5,000 words minimum, but they're still not getting that much input. And I've done a little bit of research. Sakai in 2008 was assuming you need around 1 million words to develop an autonomous reader. Belger and Hunt 2014 showed that successful participants were reading 200,000 words per year and making more progress with lower level simplified grading readers. Nishizawa in 2010, positive effects of VR don't translate to proficiency with up to only 100,000 words. And then a more recent study by Acker in 2019, 115,000 words over 1 year led to a measurable improvement in 15 to 16-year-olds. My kids were a little bit younger than this. So that was the kind of target I was really looking at. The other things I need to consider, there's not that much data on reading for junior high school students. The students are basically starting from zero. So if they're coming in at grade 7, they are starting from basically zero English at all, which really limits what you can do as far as the reading is concerned. They have a lack of vocabulary and even simple grammatical knowledge, which is quite a big hurdle at first. And what you get is initial excitement, which can become mendokusai after a little while. Students enter with very little English background, struggle. We usually have 10 to 15 students that have a very low level of English, and they do struggle with it. The 10% AGO B grade has helped motivation. It appears a little bit less motivational in the 9th grade. And a lot of students, because you set the target, they see the target as something they need to achieve. So you get some students that hit that target very quickly, and then they read nothing else. Whereas you'll get students that do nothing, and then they'll cram as much as possible in the last week, and there's a temptation to cut corners. So all these things have kind of fed into how I have moved the targets up and down and into what I'm kind of getting at the moment. But 300,000 words as a minimum for the whole of junior high school is where I am at the moment, if you can understand that rationale. And just doing the X reading. So they do X reading basically for homework out of school. But what I'm trying to do is bring that into the classroom, into some kind of blended learning approach, and integrate that with the output activities that we do in the class. So I can show you a few of them here. So in the 7th grade, they start off very simply. They'll just do a Kahoot quiz on a book. They do a reading diary where they share the books that they've read with their friends in Japanese and give some recommendations. A little bit of reading aloud. That moves on to a book report in the 2nd term and a slideshow that each of them presents. And they move into a play in the 3rd term where I've made plays based on the stories in X reading, and they work on these in groups of 4. 8th grade gets a bit more difficult, so we'll start speed reading. 2nd term, the book report, and this year we're trying to do manga. So I found a site that helps. It uses AI to translate what they write in their book report into a manga, and they will get up and present that, which is looking pretty good at the moment. And then they'll also do a play, but they get to do it in the main auditorium, which is a 1,500-seater auditorium, which is a big deal for them, really. The 3rd years, I'm not in charge of the 3rd year class, but we're looking at them possibly writing their own plays rather than based on the play that the teacher makes. Written presented material is given at Parents' Day. Videoed plays are made available for all the parents to watch as well. So I can just give a couple of examples. So these are some examples of 8th graders' work when they're writing their book reports. And it's pretty good. I mean, they do quite a good job with these book reports. And then if I can just show you a couple of the plays. So,
quiz night next Saturday.
are you getting the audio? Okay.
Not now. It was to start with.
Yes,
but-
we can.
Yes.
It's back. Please stop that man. Which ones? They were in the question and grandparent? Yes.
Oh, yes, that's right. Where are the Petronas Towers? The Petronas Towers? They are in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. Great. Which British rock band sings the song Yesterday? The Beatles.
Welcome to our museum. I think your teachers gave you some questions. Please look around. Here's the first question. Who was Henry Sutton?
Henry Satan? I don't know. Let's look for the answer.
Hey, what's going on here? Why did you do that? You didn't listen to me. Go and get clean and no more fighting. Hey, quiet. What are you doing here? We want to go to the beach. This is my run. Can't you read? It says private run. Let's go back.
I just got a call from my mother. She said, a storm is coming here. We must go back.
But I want to stay longer.
Okay. The AI software, by the way, is this one called Dashtune. I'm not sure if anybody's found out or experimented this yet, but what they'll do is they'll write a book report and then they'll copy this into the book into Dashtune, and it provides a manga for them. They get to edit that, and then they can present it to the class. It seems pretty good. We're in the experimental phase at the moment, but it's quite motivational. They're really quite into doing this. So how am I introducing this to the students and the parents and the staff, and what kind of feedback are we getting from it? So we introduced this to the first parents meeting in the first year of junior high school. So it's in May, I think. We'll give a written outline in Japanese explaining what is ER, the benefits of ER. I really want to get the parents on side with this, how to access X reading, what kind of activities we'll do throughout the year. I also give a presentation in Japanese to the parents when they come in at the beginning of the year. We also make them some of the videos available. Most of the videos I showed them are ones that Paul Goldberg passed on to me based on X reading and how to access X reading and things like that. We give evaluation forms. So even though SOGO doesn't have a grade, they do have an evaluation form at the end of each term. So this is an example one. And all the things in red are basically X reading. So the parents can see a score out of 10. They can see the students score, the average score of the grade, so they can compare how much their child is reading compared to other children in the grade. So again, like I said, there's no escape, unfortunately, for the students from this. And for the ER-based output activities like the plays, the book reports, and all of this, this is presented in the school fair, and it's made available to the parents online. So the parents, if they're so inclined, can access this at any time they would like to. Parent-teacher meetings as well. The X reading grades do come up in the parent-teacher meetings as well. And measuring the impact of it, I've held a couple of questionnaires and I've got some longitudinal data from the GTEC test. So if I just have a look at the questionnaires first of all, I've given a couple of questionnaires. Last year, I really wanted to know how much they were understanding about ER. And then this year, quite recently, I wanted to get some feedback from them to enable me to improve motivation and participation. So if I look at the one from last year, it is quite clear to see that they do understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. They understand a purpose. They claim it's easy to use. The books match their level. The quiz level's acceptable. How often do you read? I did advise them, first of all, to try to read every day. I kind of lowered that down to 3 or 4 times a week, 10 minutes at a time. A lot of them still aren't quite meeting that. They're still at about 1 or 2 sessions per week. But apart from that, they're happy with the vocabulary they're learning. They feel they're getting more used to English. They're 50-50 on the online library. They're still quite analog. They still do like to go to the library and get physical books as well. So that's probably something that will change over time. And they're quite positive about the classroom activities, the plays and the book reports and things like that. For this year, I just asked a few questions. So how often they do it? 3 or 4 times a week, like I said, was my ideal. It's not getting there. So once or twice a week or less than once a week seems to be the most popular. This is something I need to work on, how I can motivate them. Possibly there's no way around this other than giving class time to get them to do it a little bit more. How long on average? So it depends on the child. I would say 10 to 20 minutes, 3 or 4 times a week would be ideal. But it's really depending on the child. Devices as well. I assumed more would do it on smartphones, but they do tend to just use their Microsoft services for this. So I'm guessing it's more based at home when they get home, do it in their bedroom rather than on the train. And that came up here as well. Where do you usually access? The toilet was just one student. I'm not recommending they do it on the toilet. I was quite surprised because most of the students do commute by train, that so few of them do read on the train, but they say they're talking to their friends, they're relaxing after school, they don't want to be doing X reading on the train. So it does tend to be done at home, probably on the weekends more often than not. The listening is quite interesting. I did encourage it at the beginning, but what I found out was that if we look at the next data, a lot of students have worked out for themselves that reading while listening is really beneficial. And that's something that we're trying to push at the moment, rather than just listening or just reading, to improve their reading speed and their listening skills. More and more of them are doing this now. And they're pretty positive about the impact that it's had on their English. As far as how much of a burden it is, that's quite spread. Students, I mean, there are over 20 students that claim it is a big burden, but then there are a lot more students that claim it's not really a burden. So I guess I'm kind of hitting the mark with this one. Most of them hit the word targets, a few of them don't. That is after a significant pressure towards the end of the term, but they do get there in the end. Some of them do go over by quite a lot. You do get a few students in the hundreds of thousands. A couple of students I have over 1 million. And I just asked a few questions to get some feedback. So good points of X reading, level and ability related comments. It's improving my ability, it's improving my comprehension, improving my grammar, my vocabulary, etc. Book or story related comments. They're happy they can read at their level. They don't normally read books in English class, so it's something new for them. The books are easier than they expected. There's a wide variety. There are many interesting books. Functionality of X reading itself. They like the quiz function. Some of them do anyway. They can read on any device. It's easy to access. They can read what they want. Again, quite positive. And general positive comments. Stability of the AGO B. So if they get 10% from X reading, that's an automatic 10% of the AGO B grade, which is something they do appreciate. They enjoy it. It's fun. They like English more. Bad points. Difficulty related. Quizzes are difficult. Grammar is difficult. So there are quite a few students that are saying it's a little bit too difficult for me. The interesting books are too difficult. That does tend to happen because of the lower level, I guess the level 1, level 2, the books, because they're so restricted in their grammar and vocabulary, tend not to be so interesting. So that's probably where that comment's coming from. Motivation related, so it's boring, it's troublesome. They're junior high school kids, of course, these things come out. I don't know which stories are good and which stories are bad. We're getting them to feedback a bit more with each other to kind of pass on more recommendations for that. Books are too long. If you fail a test, you don't get the words duh. But that's, that's life, I guess, isn't it? It's digital, so I get distracted. That's quite funny. So they're online, so they get distracted by playing a game instead of reading. I mean, yeah, okay, I can get that too. Setting related, it's not fair we can't read the same kind of book. That's on purpose because they'll read a simple book and then they'll try to get points from a more difficult book. They can only take the test once a day because I reset it once a day. I just don't have the time to reset it more often than that. Words per minute of 300 is too slow. I don't really think so for junior high school students. Reading speed limit, again, I think it's suitable for them. Inactivity timer is too short. Not really sure why that's coming up, but it is. System functionality, they do. What happens is because they're using their computers all day and the Microsoft service doesn't have a very good battery, is it sometimes cuts out, and some of them complain that it crashes and they lost their reading data. So I have them come to me and tell me what they did, and I kind of work out something for them. They are having a couple of problems with it, but it's not too bad, I don't think. General comments, I wanted to be AGO A, which is more difficult than AGO B, obviously, but we're keeping it at AGO B. I want to see a weekly ranking, so that's probably one of the kids that got the top score that wants to see their name up in lights. Okay, fine. And the tasks that we did, they're quite positive about these. They want to do more reading aloud, more creative writing, manga, plays. These are really quite positive. I'm really glad that we brought this into the class as more of a blended learning approach rather than just setting reading as something they do outside of the class. Further opinions, positive. They want more books at around 1,000 words. 1,000 words is a good number of words for students of around 13, 14 years old. They want more books at my level. It's fun. They want the speed reading stories to be longer. Okay. Negative, please reduce the workload. That means the target, the term target of number of how many words they should read. So yeah, it's a mixed approach. It's a mixed bag. As far as measuring impact, I did win the e-teaching award at Waseda last year with this. So if anyone's interested in clicking on these, you can get some. There's a PDF and there's a video on there with Japanese on it, if that's interesting to introduce to some of the Japanese teachers at the school. We do the GTEC test, the basic level in junior 3. So in the third term, just before they leave junior high school, they'll do the GTEC. And I've had a chance to look at this over 4 years now. So students that did the GTEC in 2021, they had 0 X reading. 2022, they'd had 1 year of it. 2023, they had 2 years of it. 2024, they'd had 3 years of this. So if we look at the data, we can see that the reading score, now reading for GTEC, it does tend to be grammar rather than reading. It's not all reading, but the reading score is going up over the years. The listening score as well is going up, and the writing, there's a blip there. 2024 cohort were a little bit of a difficult grade, and it was a bit difficult to get them to do as much as the 2023 cohorts. When I've got the data for 2025, I'm assuming or hoping that that kind of blip will come back up again, but we'll see. I can't claim absolute credit for this because the AGO B course changed as well, and they are doing a lot of writing and listening in the AGO B as well. My opinion is that the impact of both doing the extensive reading and the output that they're doing in the AGO B classes is contributing to this. It's not just the extensive reading. If you break those scores down, you can see the students are kind of leveling up. So from 2021 to 2024, there are fewer students that are getting low scores and more students are getting higher scores. And that goes across the board for reading, even more so for listening, and also for writing as well. Yeah, it seems to be a trend for all the students, for even the low-level students to level up a little bit more, and for the high-level students to level up quite a bit more. So again, very, very positive there. Future goals. I am still tweaking this. It would be great to get feedback from anybody else who's doing this, especially at the junior high school level. Is there a Goldilocks setup with the word target and the X reading settings? I'm trying to improve motivation, especially for the older kids. Once they've done it for a couple of years, it just tends to drop off a little bit. I'm wondering if I can keep that going all the way through for 3 years. I'd love to link with other junior high schools that are using extensive reading, especially with X reading. Future goals, I'm continuing to do longitudinal research with GTEC. I'm looking at the high school now because our high school students all take TOEFL, the IBT test in the first and second year of high school. So I'm trying to get the data together now so I can compare students with 0, 1, 2, 3 years of junior high school X reading when they go to high school, and if this is having any impact on their TOEFL scores as well compared to students that came from outside the school. So that's coming. I'm still crunching the data on that. The elephant in the room with this, like I said, we have 360 junior high school students that are engaged in ER. We have 1,500 senior high school students on campus that are not doing ER, either voluntarily or part of the curriculum. I offered this as a voluntary subscription in 2023. 20 students signed up. Only one of them read over 5,000 words. High school students are busy. I really would like to find a way to introduce this in the high school as well, in a way that doesn't impinge on classes. We're not going to be able to introduce it in the classes. It would have to be outside of class, but it would need to be in a way where the students aren't able to cheat. But cheating has been a bit of a problem recently, and we need to, if we're going to have this in the grades, we need some way where to find out a way of doing this where the students are not cheating and getting the grades. So again, if anyone has any ideas for that, that would be fantastic. Yeah, so using AI on a larger scale in high school, any ideas on avoiding the risk of cheating for high school students? And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely wonderful. Okay, so if everyone would like to give a bit of a round of applause there,
Thank you
I'm
very
sure
much.
we're okay. I'll just remove the spotlight so we can see each other.
Okay.
Thank you. That was really, really interesting. I very thorough and a lot of information that I really want to go back and watch the video so I can see all
Okay.
the stats and
Okay.
everything that you've got, because you've put together a lot of information there, which is absolutely brilliant.
Right. Yeah, it's 4 years worth of work, so there's quite a lot of data to go on.
But as you say, like there's not so many people perhaps who are doing this or that we've heard from. So having this kind of information out there is really valuable for other people who want to hopefully get into doing ER for junior high school.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now, well, open the floor. Questions, if anyone would like to ask. Okay, David, first one with a hand up.
Hi, can you hear me okay? I was having sound
I am.
issues.
Yes, fine.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Oh, good. I'm doing extensive reading in junior high school.
Oh.
I just started X reading.
Right.
Hey, Paul, nice to see you. I'm here in Jakarta, and we just signed up with X reading. Yeah. So I've been doing extensive reading in junior high school and high school at the international schools for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And it's probably because I came out of Japan. That's where I cut my teeth as a language teacher. So I think there's a connection there. I have tons of questions. I'll start with maybe a couple, and then if other people want to ask, then to stop me from asking the slew of other questions, and that's fine. Let's see, where do I start? I'm just wondering, how do the book reports affect student motivation?
They generally do quite well. They are doing quite a bit of writing in the A Go B class as well, so they're getting quite fluent at writing at that level. I'll provide a framework for the book report, what I want them to write, and the order I want them to write it in. I don't have any problem getting them to do it. They tend to hand it in on time. And then they translate it into a PowerPoint slide.
Okay.
They present it fine.
Okay. And how much extensive reading is done in class during class time?
Not very much. We may have like 10 minutes at the end of class where I'll say, okay, get your X reading out.
Okay.
But like I said, I've only got a 150-minute class a week. And that over the year, that translates to about 26, 27 classes in the year. It's not very much at all. I've put it out there to other English teachers in other classes. If you have some free time, if you have nothing to do, how about X reading? But I don't think it goes on very much at all, to be honest.
Yeah, one thing that I think has helped us significantly is we have silent SSR, silent sustained reading, or DEAR.
I would
But
love that.
yeah, I do question the possibility of that entering into a Japanese school. It's pretty common, I think, at the international school levels, but I can foresee pushback.
There would be the science department will be, why do we have to do this for English or something like that? There would be a lot of tension. I think it would be quite difficult. It would be fantastic to do it.
Yeah, sure. The speed reading text that you use, is that the one that's on X reading?
Yes, it is. Just the first one. I think there's 3 books on there at the moment. It's just the easier one.
Okay.
So, sorry, to answer your question, for the speed reading, we do the speed reading in class.
Oh, okay.
I do get them to do the speed reading. That's just at the start of the class. It only takes 5 or 6 minutes to do anyway.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, I'm just wondering, I was interested in your data. I'm currently working on a paper that involves student motivation and extensive reading, as well as numerous other things. So I'm wondering if you could put your email address into the chat so that I could contact you.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it'd be fantastic to get in touch. That would be amazing.
Thank you very much.
Sure. There was a question in the chat about t-tests and ANOVA. It's coming. I haven't done it yet, but I hope to do it, especially when I do the TOEFL research.
Yes, I was about setting word targets. Like, how did you go about that? It's always a very difficult thing to pin down. I guess after a while you kind of get a feel for how much is possible, but in
Yeah.
your case, how did you go about setting your word targets?
Like I said, I have got the feel for it at the moment, but it has taken quite a while to do that. I read around it, but like I said, there's a lot of data out there for college students. There's nothing for students that have zero English that are coming in with like this is a pen kind of thing. So
yeah.
I set it quite low originally, and then I got feedback from the Japanese teachers as well. And they were asking the students, how is it going? Is it too difficult? Is it too easy? And then we just kind of raised it a little bit, lowered it a little bit. And I'm hoping this is kind of the fixed figure at the moment. Yeah, hopefully. It really depends on the grade. I'm assuming a lot of people have had experience teaching students at this age. Because it's quite a small school, there's only 120 students per grade. Every year has a different flavor, a different mix of students, and a different level of motivation. So it does tend to go up and down a little bit.
And I imagine you probably see a lot of difference between like the first year, years 7 and 8. I mean, that's for me. I teach in a private school setting, but I teach junior high school kids, and when they first start junior high school, they go through a huge change of personality, of everything, and I find that there's a huge difference between the first year and the second year, who have kind of settled down just a little bit. So I imagine that probably feeds into some of what you're experiencing too, the Mendel eye,
Yeah. Worst thing is when they get to third year, I think, because they've already been doing it for 2 years and they're a little bit more independent, a little bit more raring to go off to high school. They've got a little bit more on their plate as well, I think. So that's the other thing as well. I never know how much homework they have from other subjects. So I'm always wary of giving them too much and giving them too much pressure, really.
Yeah, that's a real issue, actually. I think it would be, in an ideal world, wouldn't it be lovely if there was some sort of coordinated effort to
oh, yes.
illuminate other teachers as to what homework the students are actually being assigned, so that you don't just overload all the kids and you can actually, balance it out a little bit.
Someone gave a comment here about the words per minute as 300 being too fast. Yeah, of course, 300 words per minute is too fast. Again, I've raised that a little bit because I've found that there are some students that do like to flick through, especially the 10 facts about Australia kind of book, that kind of thing. So I'm giving them a little bit of leeway. Again, that was a bit of experimentation. Because, and again, there are kids that can kind of flick through it and kind of read it. To be honest, I'm still a bit uncomfortable with giving it 300 words per minute, but it does seem to be working out at the moment.
Yeah, I have some questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I teach at junior high and high school. I teach at Meiji University.
Oh, okay.
High school, so it's kind of like probably the situation is kind of similar.
Yes, yes.
We also have an extensive reading program running for about more than 10 years now.
Okay.
We don't use X reading for junior high school students. But I teach both junior high and high school, and my question is, what do you do in class with the junior ones in first seminar because they have very limited vocabulary. Their grammar is very limited. And you just mentioned that the students make a presentation on their book report, but I believe junior ones, that's impossible. So what do you do in class?
No, it's possible. We don't introduce.
Really?
I don't introduce X reading from the word go. So they'll have a midterm test in the first term. So towards the end of May, that's when I start to introduce X reading. That's just after the parents' meeting. And then we go through it in class for 2 or 3 weeks. They get some time in class to ask the teacher questions. They can work in pairs in the first couple of weeks as well. They do tend to get through the level 1 books quite easily, quite quickly. They are on quite a quick learning curve, I think, at our school. They did all manage to read 5,000 words over the summer vacation. So
Wow.
they've had like 3 months to get to that target. They did all get there. They are writing book reports actually right now. They're quite short book reports. They tend to be on the level 1 or level 2 books. And I'm basically asking them, what's the name of the book? Who are the characters? Basically, what happened in the book? Did you like the book? And they're writing around 200 words, or give or take, on that. I'd be very happy to send you some copies of these if you want to drop me a line. I've got my email up there.
Yeah.
We could.
Yeah, I'll contact you. Yeah, I have another question, and that is, in your school, do they do Kisoego, the
I
NHK thing?
yeah. I think they still do it. They refer to it as kusoego, right? So I still hear that word coming around. So.
Yeah, I agree with that in a way. So having students do, like the junior high schools do Kisoego and extensive reading at home is quite demanding because I'm sure they have lots of other homework from different subjects. So I was wondering how they managed to do all those homework.
Difficult question to answer.
Like, is the Kisoego evaluated or in the test?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I would have to ask about that, and I probably have to get back to you later on. I'm not really sure about that. They do have obviously the Kimatsu test, and they have the Chukan test, and there's occasional like word tests and stuff. But
Let's see.
for example, like Bukatsu at our school, their junior high school students are only allowed to do Bukatsu 3 times a week. So they do have a little bit more time for study.
Oh, I see.
Could it be also that they perhaps because, well, both you, Adam, and Noriko, you're teaching at schools that are feeder schools. So regular junior high school students tend to have juku on top of everything, whereas perhaps your students are less likely to have juku. So like I know some students who have insane amounts of homework because of all the juku pressure, as well as the schools. So in some ways, them having a lot of homework through just your school is probably half what a normal kid would do.
Yeah, I mean, I realize this in a public school, they're probably only getting 3 hours of English a week, whereas they're getting 7 hours with us as well. So, although our students are at school for 6 days a week too. So I will probably, the word targets I'm setting wouldn't be appropriate for a school at possibly a lower level with only 3 hours of English a week.
Yeah, totally agree. Because our situation is the same. We have 6 days of school, 7 hours of English in total. But I believe our classrooms are bigger than yours.
Yeah, that's a kind of selling point for our junior high school, I think, is limited to about 30 kids per class, which makes it a lot more manageable. High school's back up to 40, but the junior high is 30.
Yeah. Our school has 40 to 42 for high school students. It's just too many. And we also have 7 classes, which is but smaller than your high school. It's 800 students for high school. Yeah, and we do X reading for high school students.
Right. And do you have problems with cheating with that?
Probably yes, but we don't really like we don't really run after those cheaters because we tell them that we find it out. Like teachers can find out because we have our ways. We don't explain how, but we can tell if they are really reading from their grades and their attitudes, and also from our TOEIC tests, because our students have to take the TOEIC test every term.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so if the reading speed or the listening scores do not change, it means they're obviously not doing it. So we have an interview with them.
Oh.
to
Send me
find
an
out.
email. Let's get in touch after this. If you can send me an
Yes,
email,
okay, thanks.
share some stuff with you. It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, just Chris's comment here in the chat about when he was at school, we had a homework timetable, so teachers could only set homework on days it was on the timetable, which doesn't that make sense?
It does. It could
Yeah.
even be online, couldn't it? But there isn't such a thing, unfortunately, where I am.
I think a similar problem at universities, not so much coordinating homework, but just being aware of what other pressures are on the student. I feel like a lot of, even within one department, there can be not much knowledge of what other people are doing within that department. So I think that's possibly a wider problem that goes beyond junior, senior high school.
It is a worry. I mean, I've got a 14-year-old boy, and I hear about homework every day from him. So it's. I mean, I'm trying not to give them too much, but because they've got the vacation time to do it as well. So, for example, the second term reading target that includes the entire summer vacation to get there as well. This third term includes the entire winter vacation, and our school has long holidays. They'll have 3.5 weeks at winter. They'll have almost 8 weeks in the summer. So, I think if they pace themselves, it shouldn't be a big problem.
So it would be nice to live in a world where vacation meant vacation.
Well, yeah.
Not in Japan, though, I know. But overseas, I think you'd be very hard pressed to get a New Zealand student to do any sort of homework over the summer vacation break. It's no way. And Chris also asked about why they're beginners at the age of 13. Haha, Adam, do you want to take that?
Oh God, I mean, they're doing English in elementary school these days in Japan. They start at 12 years old, right, in grade 7. We don't have English on our entrance exam for junior high school. I don't think many private junior high schools do have English on the entrance exam. So what that means is the kids who are coming to us are generally pretty smart, but they're focusing on what's on the entrance exam. So even if they're doing some kind of English in the elementary school, and I think it really depends on the school, they're probably not paying any attention whatsoever to that because they're just focusing on science, maths, and Japanese to pass the entrance exam.
And that's the way of Japan, focusing on what's on the exam rather than a general education, unfortunately. Yes, Oliver.
Hello, Adam. So I'm currently teaching. I remember actually going through some of the X-reading stuff when I was teaching at Waseda with you. But I'm currently teaching at a school where they're not allowed smartphones in the class, and there's no Microsoft Surface, and it's all analog, which it has its pluses and minuses. But I'm wondering, like, how much do you need the Microsoft Surfaces, and logistically, do you think you'd be able to do it without them or without their smartphones in class?
No. They're doing the reading outside, like I said, apart from the speed reading. I mean, if you've got like a computer lab at the school, you could pull them into the computer lab if you're able to reserve it and do something on there. But they could probably do their book report if they were handwriting it. And I do handwriting at the first stage of the book report as a draft, but they generally need to check the book while they're doing that. So that would be out too. And obviously the practice for the plays and the PowerPoint and the video and stuff like that would be quite difficult. So no, it wouldn't work in the way that I do it, I'm afraid.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully you can persuade them to get computers in. I mean, it is 2024.
I don't know. Like I say, there are pluses and minuses. At least there isn't that distraction.
That's true. That is
But
true.
also, Adam, you did say that there are students who prefer picking up a paper book than
They do
reading
say that, yeah.
online. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
There is still, as everybody knows, it's we're in the country of faxes, right? We're still a little bit kind of, I mean, how do you know somebody works for a Japanese company to have their fax number at the bottom of the Meishi? So.
But you had a limited library, is what you were saying, right? So having
We
X
have,
reading
yeah.
has tremendously increased the amount that the
Yeah.
students have access to, right?
We have the largest library of any junior and senior high school in the country. Apparently, it's quite often boasted about, but very few English books in there. They have, for some reason, the Curious George series, but that's too difficult for junior. Well, junior threes could probably handle it, not junior one, junior two. There's not much in there at all, and there was no chance of really getting millions of yen to suddenly buy a lot of extra books. So it was just so lucky that at that time I came across X reading, and it's just gone, gone with the X reading.
And so the one thing I did want to ask about is, do you have many returnees or people who have spent time overseas?
In the high school, generally 2 or 3 per class. But in the junior high school, generally none. One or two. I think in this third years, there are none actually. The second years, there's a couple. First years, there's one. No, there's no returnee intake. There's no special treatment given to any returnee either.
Well, that's really good. I mean, good to know that your statistics or your information is for regular students rather than having anybody skew the the word counts. Yeah.
The super readers we have, the ones that get up to 1 million or something, none of them have ever been returnees. They've always been regular kids that are just those kids you need to keep an eye on, because I've heard reports that they're actually reading in class in other people's classes. They've got their Surface open and they're ignoring the math lesson because they're reading through X reading books. So I've had to have a word with a couple of them.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful.
That's when it becomes a bit scary, actually.
Well, obviously that's really good. They are obviously motivated readers, which that's okay,
Yeah.
not so much. But also you're talking about how ER was it 10% of the grade for
Diego B grade, yeah. So a couple of years ago, the Japanese teacher's been really good with me. I mean, their curriculum's full. There's no way they could do any of the activities I'm doing in the class, but they've given me 10% of the grade, and that's just an extra motivational buzz for the students, because it's
great.
Difficult. I mean, if they get the word target, that's all I'm asking for, the word target. They'll get 10 points.
And you showed the grade school report where they have the word count.
Yeah.
So the parents actually see the amount that the students
Yes.
are reading. So is that an annual report, or
No,
is
every term?
Okay.
So three times a year. Again, it's something I introduced a long time ago because I don't have tests. I don't have an actual grade on the official grading form. So instead of that, I put all of the short tests and the listening tests and the writing activities and stuff on that form, and that's just printed as an extra form to give to the parents.
You did mention something about how comparing their results against other students, but I didn't quite catch how you did that.
Oh, sorry. So yeah. Again, I don't know if anybody's ever had this experience. I had this experience a long time ago in Japan in junior high school, where the students were not getting very good results, and they would say to the teachers, well, I didn't understand the foreign teacher. He was speaking in English. And the Japanese teachers have been like, well, yeah, okay, I understand. It must be very difficult. Yeah, there kind of thing. So what I do, it's actually not a problem at my school at all. I've got a lot of support where I am at the moment. But what I will do for any grade they get, they will get their grade. And then above that will be the average grade for the school year. For like all 120 students in that grade, the average grade will be this, so that for anything they get, the parents can see, well, you only got 3 points, but the average grade was 7 points. So it's a problem with you. It's not a problem with the teacher or the test or something like that. And that goes all the way through to the X reading as well. So I'll give them the average score of X reading for that term and the average from year 0 until now as well. So the parents can quite easily compare that.
That's absolutely brilliant.
Just takes a while on Excel, but it's worth doing.
Interesting comment here from Paul. Thank you, Paul. I assume you're on the Shinkansen there. That Kidno High School had to stop their reading competitions because the kids were reading in other classes.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, I say that's a brilliant problem to have. Kids who are wanting to read more.
Not if you're a maths teacher or a science teacher, I don't think.
True. And yes, Chris as well. His wife had to tell her youngsters not to read while going down the stairs when they got a new paper book.
But they'll just do it with a smartphone as well. So
yes, well,
I haven't caught any of them walking in the street reading X reading on a smartphone yet, but maybe
one day, who knows? I mean, in Japan, I think anything's possible when it comes to smartphones. Yeah. And also, Chris, you had a comment here. What's important, how much you do or the results? What do you mean by the question? Oh, you have to turn your sound on.
Yeah, I just meant that counting how many words students had read, read, is that the really important thing, or is it how well their scores have advanced in reading and other skills? In the end, it's where they get to that really counts, not steps taken to get there. But of course, it's much easier perhaps to measure the steps that they've taken to get there. I don't know.
It's just a metric, really. It's I mean, you could have a number of books, but all the books have different numbers of words in them, so it would be quite difficult to compare. For example, if one kid read 10 books of 500 words and another kid read 2 books of 3,000 words, it would be difficult to compare that. I understand exactly what you're saying, but I think I just needed some kind of metric to deal with.
I did exactly the same. I gave them feedback on the number of words they'd read or what level they'd reached. I wasn't measuring the results. I was measuring what they had done.
The level thing is a little bit tricky with the kids, because especially in a school like ours, they're always trying to outdo each other or aiming for the most difficult thing they can achieve. So, for example, if they get to level 4, they think that they should read level 4 books, and I'm saying, well, that's not the purpose of ER. Is that you should be reading all of the really easy books first of all, and it's quite hard to communicate that to them sometimes. But they'll reach level 4 because it's based on word counts. So as long as they've read that many words, they will have automatically gone up to level 4. If I had a class of like 10 or 15 students that I knew intimately and could control their levels by myself, that would be easy. But with 360 kids, I can't look at them on a case-by-case basis.
Can I ask, do you read the books yourself? Do you actually, have you read some of the books that the kids are reading, and do you recommend things to your students?
Yeah, I've read quite a lot of them, I think, and I get to read a lot of them secondhand through their book reports and stuff as well. So now, because they all tend to choose the same books, so the same book reports come out. When they do a book report, they're banned from doing the same book as somebody else in their class. So there's a sign-up sheet at the front of the class, and there'll be a massive scuffle to get there first, to get their name there, so that nobody takes the book they want to get. The books for this level, once they get a bit used to it in Junior 1, so I say halfway through Junior 1 and all the way through Junior 2, the Rob Waring books are where it's at. They're absolutely perfect for that level. But once they get to J3, they're a bit above that level. But yeah, that series is fantastic. All of the students have read all of those books.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree, and I know many teachers who agree with that too. Now, Jean, you're back. Would you like you've got a question for Adam?
Hi, yeah, I'm back. I'm kind of, I don't know about my internet in this room, but yeah, I was so excited I to see your presentation, because I do ER in junior high school, and it's not common to hear a presentation about that. So it's fantastic, and it was so interesting. Yeah, I had my phone, I was taking pictures of the your slides. I didn't know when I'd have to leave, but yeah, is it possible are the slides there somewhere, or is
this is recorded for YouTube,
great.
so you'll be able to watch it on YouTube and pause whenever you'd like.
Yeah.
Please get in touch. Please email me, and I can send them to you on anything you want to. I really want to connect with other teachers doing this in junior high school. So that would be great to hear.
Yeah. Are you going to the November conference in Shizuoka?
Probably not.
Oh, okay. That's too bad.
Again, it's junior high school. There's just so many things going on. I think it's a school trip at the same time, actually.
Okay, yeah. So I missed the first few minutes and the last 20 minutes or something, but it's a boys school, is it?
It is, yes.
I was thinking when they did the plays, that's the one gender class is it's a lot easier to do plays when there's no girls in the audience, or if it's girls when there's no boys in the audience. So
Yes.
that's what I found anyway, working in different situations.
What you do have to do with that is I obviously do have the female roles in there, and you'll get some kids coming on doing a high voice like this. And it's quite annoying. So you have to try to control that. But apart from that, yes, it does work.
Yeah. No, plays are wonderful, but especially if it's only boys or only girls in junior high, that's what I find anyway. So yeah, okay. I just wanted to say hi, and yeah, it was very interesting, extremely interesting. Thank you.
Please get in touch. Yes.
Actually, talking about the plays, now you're creating the plays, is that what you said?
They're based on the books. They're probably all Rob Waring's. So I'm sorry, Rob, I'm going to plagiarize you. I've just broken it down into basic plays. I'll have 4 people in the group. So I did this a couple of years ago. It took a bit of time to do it, but I'm using as much text as possible from the book, but just giving them, play scripts to read. And they're supposed to remember the scripts. They have quite a bit of time to practice it. They generally tend to. What you'll have seen in the video is they're holding it, and I just let them have it as a comforter, really. If you take it away from them, they get a bit panicky. They've got that there, but they generally aren't reading it.
And how long is it like a 5-minute play, or?
It depends on how much they practice. The junior one, the 7th graders tend to be 3 or 4 minutes. And if the 2nd graders get through it quite well, it's around 6 minutes.
Nice. Okay, Jean, come on, jump in.
I wanted to, yes, so I'm sure you explained this, but I missed it. So the extensive reading is only outside of class. Is that correct?
Basically, in the 2nd grade, in junior 2, I do speed reading in the class for 5 minutes.
Okay, right. And so in the class, they're working on the different activities that you mentioned, like say on the play or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, my class isn't only an ER class. I'd say about 50% of the stuff they do in the class is related to ER, and 50% is other conversation, pronunciation materials outside of ER.
Oh, okay. And it's once a week?
Yes. Just once a week, 50 minutes once a week. It's never enough.
Never enough. Any other questions from anybody? One other, well, from me, what is it, -2?
-2, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? I've not come across that before. And what's the cost? Because I'm assuming there is a...
Free. It's free. Yeah, it seems to be anyway. I've been trying to think of a way to move away from the book report, because I was doing book reports in junior 1 and junior 2, and it's a bit boring to do the same thing. I mean, they're doing it at a much higher level. They're writing 300 or 400 words in junior 2. But I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do manga, but then I thought if I get them to draw manga in class, that's going to take days or weeks. And so I was thinking maybe get them to do it on Canva, but some of them are quite literate, computer literate, and some of them are not. And I just looked around and I found this online, and I experimented with it, messed about with it. Yeah, it's AI soft. It's obviously we're not really at the peak AI at the moment. So once you put your story in there, you'll get the pictures, and suddenly the main character has a different colored shirt on, or a different face, or something like that, or something's like hallucinated from one picture to another. But so that's probably actually good, because that will prompt people to laugh while it's going along. But essentially, it works quite well as long as you make sure that you put a lot of speech into your story. It transcribes it into speech bubbles, and then you've got the chance just to edit it and tidy it up and stuff.
So what exactly do you put in? Like, the students, what do they put in? What's the input to the
A
AI?
story. So they're doing a book report basically,
Mm.
but it's just a different way around it. Instead of presenting the book report or handing the book report, I'll actually get them to write the book report by hand, and I'll check it as a first draft. And then once for their second draft, they will just cut and paste that into Dashtoon and wait for about 5 minutes until it does its magic, and then it will come out with the manga. And then once they're happy with the manga, they'll connect their computer to the screen in the class, and they will basically just narrate the manga as they go through it.
That's really good idea. I think that's such a yeah, like you say, doing the same thing over and over again. Having a bit of variety is always motivational for
And
students,
they love
especially if
manga, and I really wanted to do something with AI because I don't think the school is, even in high school, really touching much upon AI, which is something that's going to change their lives more than they can imagine in the future. And it's, I've heard high schoolers are cheating by using ChatGPT quite a lot. In fact, I asked a high school class, put your hand up if you've ever cheated using ChatGPT, and every single student put their hand up. But they haven't, I've not seen them use it in a creative way that helps their education. So hopefully this will cover that a little bit.
Yeah. Yep, Jean?
So they could yeah, obviously they could write their own story and then use that for an original story as well, right?
I think the whole point of Dashtoon is basically that anybody who wants to make a manga or a graphic novel can just put their story on there. And then you can access it for free. You download it as an application and you can go on there for free. I think there's a paid site as well. I think if you've got the free site, you can only make up to like 200 or 300 frames or something. But then these kids are only making 20 or 30 frames for their presentation anyway, so that's fine. I think if you really wanted to get into it, you'd have to pay to do it. But for the level we're doing at, it's free.
That is so good. I'm definitely going to be checking that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, one other thing you did mention about students, like trying to encourage them to read regularly, and you mentioned like 3 times a week would be wonderful,
Yeah.
but it's very hard to motivate students to do that. And I also find, I think we kind of live in a Juku cram culture where a lot of students really just do everything the night before it's due, and it's very hard to motivate students to do things at other times. So what are you doing, or what have you found anything that can motivate students to do their 3 sessions a week or even 2 or so extensive reading?
Just talking to them, cajoling them, speaking about it. Every class saying who's done it and stuff like that. Obviously you have the function on X reading where you can see when they've read it. So it comes up as like a traffic light thing, like green or pink or yellow or something. So I'll go through that, and if there's a kid that hasn't read for 30 days or something, I might pull him to the front and say, hey, look, you haven't read for 30 days. But I'm well aware that they are very busy with all the other things as well, so I don't want to give them too much pressure. And if they don't reach the word target, nothing happens. They get a little bit of a lower score, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah, and so Paul's put in here, anyone familiar with streaks in Duolingo? I assume that's Duolingo. Not familiar with that.
Who's that?
But one other thing that you mentioned was about reading aloud as part of their homework. How do you do that? Like we used to get them to read onto Flip or Flipgrid as it was, which will disappear completely tomorrow. But do you get them to record themselves reading, or how do you go about setting that as a homework task?
This is just for the first term of the first grade of the junior ones, because they're not capable of writing any kind of book report or anything at that stage. Just to get them to know that it's integrated with other things. I am checking it somehow, so they can choose a book, and I just get them to record a few seconds, 30 seconds or so of them reading from the book. And we use Moodle as our LMS, which, love it or hate it, we use it.
I use Moodle at my school.
And so they'll send it to me as an MP3 or so as a WAV file through Moodle, and then I'll just check that. And I'll
So
give
it's
them.
just like an assignment, read aloud and
Yeah.
then submitting that. Okay.
It's really basically just to let them know, look, there are the other things you're going to have to do. The teacher's watching you, the teacher's paying attention to you and caring about your education, kind of thing. So it's really just.
That's how we use it too. It's like at least if they have to read, we call it read to me. It's like if they're having to do that, we know at least once a week they have actually picked up a book, and there's proof because they're actually reading it. So yeah, it can be quite motivating just to get them to pick up a book. So yeah. Okay, so that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I see the streak now. I've never used Duolingo. My son was using it. I kind of remember what that was. Yes, that's interesting, actually.
All right. Oh, okay.
How about integrating that into X reading, Paul? Is there any way of doing that? Or read?
Oh, here we go. Teacher sets a requirement, for example, read every other day. Students then try to keep a streak going as long as possible. And yeah, it's gamifying, isn't it? Really.
That's actually a really good idea. I'll definitely look into that. That would definitely work for the younger students, first and second grade, for sure.
And yeah, Paul, that would be great for X reading. So yeah, and motivating for us adults as well. Yep, Jean.
I wondered how on board the other teacher is with this. You were doing Chuichi and Chuni, and just my own experience. There's two of us at the school, and I love doing extensive reading, but the other teacher has absolutely no interest in it, so it's kind of disappointing. Anyway, that's one reason it's so nice to turn this on and to see that how enthused you are. But yeah, how's the other teacher?
I mean, the Sogo class I do, it's a native teacher taught class, and we split it into two. So I'm a full-time.
Yeah, I'm also talking about a native speaker, but yeah.
Well, I'm a full-timer at the school, and the part-time teacher, I don't want to sound like some kind of ogre or stuff. I give the syllabus to the part-time teacher, and the part-time teacher syllabus teaches.
Oh, okay. So the other person is not a full-time person.
No.
Okay, yeah. In my case, we're both full-time people, and I'm
Okay.
all in, and he has no interest. Yeah.
I have no solution. I've been there.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions before we? No. Okay. Well, I'll stop the official recording. We will continue after the recording finishes. But thank you very much, Adam. Once again, absolutely wonderful and really good to add to all the presentations that we've heard over the last few years. Junior high school is an area that's really underrepresented. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, underrepresented, but it's really so crucial to learning English, especially
the other thing
in the school system. That's when it really starts. And man, I just wish more schools would go with it.
It's easy to integrate, especially if you're using X reading. It's so easy to integrate. It's so easy to do outside the class as well. It's almost a no-brainer, really. I mean, it depends how much you're able to do with it, but integrating it into every junior high school shouldn't be that difficult, I don't think.
Absolutely.